Africa is gonna win!
Africa is gonna win!
Long live People's War!
Long live People's War!
People's War is gonna win!
People's War is gonna win!
African Liberation Day, which is traditionally celebrated throughout the African world each May 25th, was the occasion this year for the largest all-black assembly ever held in Washington, D.C. More than 30,000 blacks, representing a wide cross-section of political ideologies, gathered at the culmination of a two-day conference on Africa. The underlying themes behind the conference and march were to heighten the awareness of blacks in this country to the plight of our brothers and sisters in Africa, to create some ongoing organization that would actively aid black freedom fighters in those African countries still under white colonial rule, to begin to link our future as a self-determined, free people with that of Africans, and to begin to act as a unified body of blacks who will influence U.S. policy towards Africa. The marchers demonstrated in front of the Portuguese embassy as a protest against that government's colonial domination of Angola, Guinea-Bissau, and Mozambique. In front of the South African embassy and the Rhodesian Information Center, because of their racist minority regimes which rule over the black majority population. And here, in front of the U.S. State Department, to protest this country's trade agreements with South Africa and importation of Rhodesian chrome ore, despite a United Nations embargo against it. In spite of this demonstration, a week later, the U.S. Senate upheld the right of America to continue to import Rhodesian chrome ore. It defeated the McGee Anti-Rhodesia Amendment. The demonstrators then congregated at the Washington Monument, renamed Lumumba Square.
As Malcolm said, we must not be content letting backward Negro politicians decide our fate and sell us out. We must do battle with them. We must do battle with them. We must do battle with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party or any other white parties that try to claim black loyalty or represent black leadership. And we must put together a nationalist party, a Pan-Africanist party. What the National Black Political Convention tried to do in Gary was to set out on the course toward creating a political structure that has a black value system, a political structure that can move the masses of the people, a political structure that understands Pan-Africanism and the struggle all over the world to unify African people and to liberate the continent of Africa and to create self-determination for African people wherever they are. I think that today proves, first of all, that those of us who are talking about nationalism and talking about Pan-Africanism, that there is a constituency for that. There are over 25,000 people here in Washington today talking about nationalism and Pan-Africanism, talking about African liberation. So the next time anybody wants to tell you that you don't have a constituency or ideology is in the minority, point out the fact of the 25,000 or 30,000 people who came to Washington, D.C. today to celebrate African Liberation Day, to support African liberation.
The architect of the concept, Unity Without Uniformity, Imamu Baraka, is also head of the Committee for a Unified Newark and was a co-chairman of the recent Black Political Convention. He has evolved as a leading spokesman for Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism.
As we have marched today, we have opened the collective floodgates of memory and traveled back over the centuries to those days when they brought our slave forebearers in chains to the west coast of Africa, chained one to another, each beside one of another tribe, so that they could not understand one another's language. We remembered as we walked today how they led our ancestors into the deep, heavy darkness of the foul-smelling holds of the slave ships. How as they made their 3-month journey across the Atlantic, seeing nothing but darkness, hearing nothing but the groans and moans of their compatriots in suffering, and smelling nothing but the stench of their dead and dying comrades and the stench of their own defecation. As we marched, we cried out, "Oh, our fathers, what was it like to be stripped of all supports of life, save the beating of the heart and the ebb and flow of fetid air in the lungs? What was it like as you were stood on auction blocks and sold down the river to the highest bidder? Mothers separated from their children, fathers from their sons, brothers from their sisters, never to see one another again." We remembered all of that, and we have decided to answer the call of our ancestors and the call of our black brothers in Africa. And for that historic occasion, certainly we are all thankful.
Guinea is gonna win!
Long live Angola!
Long live Angola!
Angola is gonna win!
Angola is gonna win!
Long live Mozambique!
Long live Mozambique!
Mozambique is gonna win!
Mozambique is gonna win!
Long live Africa!
Long live Africa!
Africa is gonna win!
Africa is gonna win!
Long live People's War!
Long live People's War!
People's War is gonna win!
People's War is gonna win!
Long live Africa!
Long live Africa!
Africa must unite!
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 Down with white racism!
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 Africa shall triumph!
Africa shall triumph!
Pull the fight together, Guinea. We with you, Southern Sudan. Fight on, running wise, Mozambique. Jump quick, light, Felinzi. Teach Nyeri. Watch our backs, our CG4. Guide our future, Lumumba. Describe our enemies, Garvey. We're coming, Touré. Coming, Punchy. Going to surprise the world, surprise our fathers, Malcolm. We have more than mouth, more than fast talk, more than Harvard rhetoric. We are coming. We are what we are. We are what we are not. We are what we are going to be. Coming. Coming, rising to the higher beat of African rhythm, coming, dancing hard, making sense, remembering Sharpeville, remembering Orangeburg, coming, remembering yesterday's planet, rising out of the earth fast, challenging new thoughts, challenging concepts of the gods. Come and elevate up, Juju. Black world vibrations beat into each other. Come and rise through visions of African love. Rise, come and feed. Get back, negative. We come and shine. Fighting through space, sun. Sun is sliding closer to the expected. Come in nationalists. Come in Christian. Come in Muslims. Come in rise, ancient black spirit. Come in, rise, boo-boo. Rise, brothers. Rise, sisters. Rise, people of the summer. We are coming. Come in. We are here quick. Gathered to save the future for our children.
Let's have it for him. God lead. Yes, sir. All right.
The spirit of the march and rally was one of the unique elements. Unlike most rallies of a political nature, camaraderie and self-expression were a major component. Each marcher, so to speak, did his own thing, but all in the context of a black tradition. Variations of the Black Power salute frequently ended in black embrace. Speeches followed marches, and marches followed drumming, singing, and dancing.
And when we were in the People's Republic of China, we had the fortune to meet with the president of Frelimo, the Front for the Liberation of Mozambique, with President Carlos Machel. And I want to tell you in a few words that they're really taking care of business in Mozambique. And I guess I don't have to tell you that they're taking care of business in Guinea-Bissau. As a matter of fact, our people are struggling to liberate our motherland. We know that the Vietnamese people are struggling to liberate their territory. And there's a very significant thing that has taken place in the last few hours in the history of the world, because they have made a pact. And do you know who they are? We talk about Kosygin and Brezhnev and Bergogne and Nixon. Yesterday they were enemies, and today they made a pact. So the enemy is uniting. And so are we, brother, that's right. And this is what is beautiful, that we are uniting here today, that we put aside many petty and small differences, because the hour is too late and the time is too desperate for us to be talking about the small differences. The people of the black and the third world must unite against the common enemy, because the common enemy is definitely uniting against us. I don't have any words that I could tell you, because we've told each other something. The thing to do is to go beyond today and to deal with tomorrow and tomorrow, to liberate this territory, to talk about liberating the United States of America, so that if we want to go to the motherland, they're liberating territory right now, and we can go there. And when they want to come here, we can say, we have a place prepared for you. I have no message other than to say that this is a very beautiful thing, that it shows that we do love each other, and that the basis for our struggle is love. And that when we can get rid of the bombs, and when we can get rid of the guns, then we can all sit down and relax completely. We have a slogan in the Black Panther Party. We say that we advocate, that we are the advocates of the abolition of war. But we know that in order to get rid of the gun, it is necessary to take up the gun. I will leave you now with all power to the people. All power to the people.
All Africa's children are nephews and our nieces. We are brothers and sisters, yes, we're African people.
Oh, yes.
You know you're wrong. You know you're wrong. You're in a war and you don't belong. Pack up your hard guns and come on home. Stop the fight of napalm. Stop the fight of napalm.
Malcolm also talked about human rights instead of civil rights. We watched Dr. King on television when we were in high school try to prove that America could be changed. Dr. King proved the inhumanity of America. We watched Dr. King get his head beat on television at the 6 o'clock news throughout my senior year in high school. We watched that every day, and it proved to us that while we must organize mass movements, and Dr. King organized 250,000 people to come to Washington, but we must understand that mass movements have their place in the struggle, that the movement of all black people together, and we must try to be that element. Just go over some things so that some of you can use them and remember them. First of all, we at the beginning of the 70s and throughout the end of the 50s and through the 60s, we have had a great deal of ideology, but all that ideology has been focusing on one point, one movement, which is African liberation. From 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama, with Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks moving around desegregation, and the idea that black people must have access to all the facilities in America, all the facilities on the land that they inhabited, that we must have equal access. To 1957, the independence of Ghana, and Kwame Nkrumah bringing Pan-Africanism into the world arena. 1957 also, Rob Williams in Monroe, North Carolina, who talked about armed self-defense and the Deacons for Self-Defense in Bogalusa, Louisiana. That was in 1957. That was Nkrumah and Robert Williams in the same year. Montgomery in 1955. The beginning of the 60s brought about Malik, Malcolm X, Brother Malcolm X, who said to us that we must follow revolutionary black nationalism, that we must try to unify all the different groups, that there was no one particular ideology that in and of itself would lead black people to liberation. Malcolm X said that we must try to see that all the different groups come together to work on whatever problems we can work on in common. And this finally, when it's brought to a national level, is called Pan-Africanism because it means African nations of different ideologies working together to liberate African people all over this planet.
Judge Alexander, what is your opinion of the event today, the African Liberation Day?
I think African Liberation Day is a very significant occasion. It's the kind of thing that people who are enslaved or in servitude or bondage or in colonialism ought to do all over the world. When riding along 16th Street today, as an example, I think it's significant. My 8-year-old daughter said, "Daddy, are all Jews from Soviet?" I said, "No, dear, but that's the way it is with the Jews. Their brothers in Russia are getting a hard time, and they over here in the United States, many thousands of miles away, want to see an end to it." I like to tie that in with African Liberation Day.
Normally, in a person's mind, a judge is a rather stiff person who wouldn't be at an African Liberation Day. Do you see the fact that you are a judge and participating in an event such as this nature indicates any basic change in Black America?
Well, I don't know. I think it's an individual thing. I think black judges are doing better every day. They formed an organization called the Judicial Council in the National Bar Association. Black judges should be leaders, and they should try to help people make the injustices to justice in this country a thing of the past. And they should try, however they can, to make equal justice under law a reality. I like to think coming out here with my family at least is an indication of how we feel about it.
This occasion is one of the most important occasions of African people at all times. Here in Washington, D.C., symbol of where we were stolen, underneath a monument that is a symbol of stolen goods. The people have renamed it Lumumba Monument. Was named after the so-called father of this country, George Washington. And as we look at it, we see that it is an obelisk from Egypt. This is symbolic of what has happened to us. 2 weeks ago, in Guinea, probably the greatest African funeral took place to a great African man, Kwame Nkrumah. And why do we say he was great? Because he, more than any other African leader, took the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, which this is a symbol of. When Marcus Garvey said, Africa for the Africans. As a matter of fact, Garvey said, Mr. White Man, are you mad? Are you insane? Do you think you can rule the world on bluff?
To practice Pan-Africanism in our own communities. We must work to unify all groups, but we must not be willing to accept traitors as part of our unity. We must be so unified that traitors cannot be traitors unless they sacrifice their lives. Malcolm X, the beginning of the 60s, talked about revolutionary black nationalism, the unity of groups. He talked about community control, that we must control the politics and the politicians in our community. That if we had backward niggers so-called leading us, then we were backward niggers for letting them continue to lead us without challenging them. That is what community control means. It means controlling everything. It means controlling the politics, controlling the community organizations, controlling the economics, controlling everything in the black community that is of any value. This is what Malcolm said at the beginning of the 60s. Malcolm also talked about Afro-Asian alliances, that we are not a minority, that we suffer because we have a minority mentality in America. We think we are a minority when we become part of America's domestic byproduct. But we are African people. We are African people. We make up one gigantic African nation across this world.
The African Liberation Day March was a phenomenal and historic occasion, the largest all-black march organized by blacks, held in Washington, D.C. The attendance was huge, in spite of the fact that it was largely ignored by the white press. What remains to be seen is if this was just another march, after which everything returns to the status quo, or if the march can influence America's foreign policy towards Africa. Major participants agreed that the difference between the civil rights movement and the liberation struggle will be the degree to which black people can unify and, most importantly, act.